All right. Hey, we're live shortly. This will be fun. By the way, this is fun, open-ended. Hi, Mitchell Levy, Global. Am I live? Karen, I think we're live. Is that true? Uh-oh.
Yes, sir. You're live. Yep, you're good. You couldn't hear me, but you're live and good to go. You're good to go.
All right. Hey, so for you guys who heard the little stumble up front, my apologies, and hopefully we'll cut this off for the reshooting of this. And hi, this is Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and I am at one of the funnest times of my week, and that is to talk to someone who is special. And by the way, the real Jason Duncan is really special. Talk to somebody who's special about their values, who they are, how they show up in life. And so this is an absolutely amazing opportunity. And I'd like to welcome the real Jason Duncan to the stage.
Hello there, Mitchell.
You know, it's been fun to continue to, you had me on your show. I just did a cred reel with you, and it's fun to continue to get to know you and interact with you. And just for everyone else, who are you?
Well, I am the real Jason Duncan, and I show entrepreneurs how to get out of the weeds of daily operations of their business. So I spent 13 years as a pastor. I spent 4 years as a school teacher before I became an accidental entrepreneur. And I started a company in an industry I knew nothing about, simply out of the sheer necessity to pay the bills. Ended up building a multi-million-dollar business, experienced lots of success, got paid a heck of a lot more than I did when I was a pastor and teacher. And, things were going good until I realized that I kind of trapped myself. And so I figured out how to get out, and then that turned into a whole new, better life for me. And other people said, well, how did you do it, Jason? So I started showing them how to do it. And before you know it, I figured I'm living in the middle of why I'm on this earth. I'm a teacher by nature. And so now I get to do that every day and help people.
So tell me a little bit more about you. You know, I got it. Former teacher, former pastor, but tell me a little bit more about who are you?
So I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We met on a blind date when we were 15 and 16 years old. And we've been married 27 and a half years now. And she's my best friend. And I couldn't imagine life without her. We have two grown children, 22 and 22-year-old son who doesn't live with us, and a 20-year-old daughter who's still here and lives with us. And we live just north of Nashville, Tennessee. We love to go camping in our RV. I love to ride my motorcycles. And we're actually leaving Saturday. We'll be gone for 9 days on an RV trip down to Florida. And that's what I love to do.
Nice. By the way, those are good ages with your kids. I mean, they're all, I thought all ages are good ages with kids. What was one of the valuable parenting lessons you learned?
Well, I took some bad advice from a friend of mine about parenting about, I don't know how many years ago it was. And I thought that it sounded good. It sounded right. And it sounded like, okay, that's what I should do. And I did. And it ended up backfiring. I don't know that had I not taken the advice, it would have turned out any different. But what I guess I took away from that whole experience is parents really do know what's best for their kids. They absolutely do. I mean, we've been as parents ahead of them their whole lives. They never are going to catch up until we die, and then they surpass us. But I knew what was best for my kids, and I trusted their decision-making ability over my own at that moment. And mainly because I got the advice from a friend of mine, even though it ended up turning out to be bad advice. So I think that one of the valuable parenting tips that I learned is you need to trust your intuition as a parent to do what's right. You need to protect your kids, to help them make right decisions. Don't smother them. Don't helicopter them. They've got to learn how to fail on their own. But they need to understand that you know what's up and you know what's right, and you help guide them gently into the proper future.
And I think I keep thinking to myself, I got to ask, what was the bad advice? What did you don't need to answer that. It's very personal, but what did you do that you weren't supposed to?
Yeah,
Or,
it was.
I don't know if it's supposed to. That's an interesting, I guess I'll listen to it.
Well, I think the advice boiled down to, without giving away too many internal details, the advice boiled down to trust your kid, trust the adult inside your child to make the right decision. And they, the kid was in the teenage years at that point. And so the advice was trust the adult in there to make the right decision, and just kind of let that happen. And no, I don't think you should. I don't think they have I think to be comical about this, kids, teenagers especially, are brain damaged. They don't actually, their brain is not fully formed until they're in their mid-20s. And so why would I trust them to make rational, good, long range decisions when they don't have a fully functioning brain? And of course, I jest a little bit there, but the point still stands. I was encouraged to trust the adult inside them, that they'll make no. I need to help them make better decisions. I don't make them for them. I just need to help them make better decisions.
God, I hear that. So I feel there's a fine line there, and it's an interesting. I like what you just said at the end. Because I actually do think, when I'm thinking about my now 24-year-old, there was an adult in there. There was somebody who could make the right decisions, and we did allow him to make a lot of the decisions, not all, and we also encouraged him to ask for support, right? So that there, but I guess it depends. There are definitely some decisions. And remember, I have a male, so men are different than, daughters, right? Males are different. Sons are different than daughters.
That's right.
That's an interesting. Now, let me ask you this question. How did you apply that learning to what you do in your business?
Well, one of the things that is counterintuitive to the story that I just told is there is this universal law called the law of discovery. And the law of discovery teaches us, and all of us, and I think we would all know this intuitively, even though we've never heard anybody articulate the law of discovery, is that we learn more by what we discover on our own than what we are taught. And kids are a great example. You look at a toddler who wants to touch a candle, and the parent says hot, and the toddler repeats back hot, because they don't know what that means. And you say, don't do this, it's hot, don't touch the candle, it's hot. We all know as parents what had to happen. The kid had to touch the candle before they understood that it was hot. That's the law of discovery in action. We could tell them it's hot all the time. They're not going to learn. They're not going to know. It's not until they touch it and they realize through failure, shouldn't touch this. It's hot. In life, and as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, who I work with business owners exclusively, I could teach them lots of things, but until they experience it on their own, they really don't know that what I'm telling them is the truth. So one of the things they hear me say all the time, my clients hear me say, is the magic is in the action. You could sit through my coaching classes. You could sit through the mastermind experience. You could sit through all that, listen to every podcast I've ever done, listen to every keynote speech I've ever given. But until you act upon this, it is not going to become reality for you. The magic is in the action. So that's one of the things that parenting taught me. The law of discovery kind of reiterates, and then I use that law with my clients.
The magic is in the action. That's interesting. I love that, by the way.
Well, thank you.
So it's less about strategy and more about delivery, or tell me, how does that fit into it as an entrepreneur? How does that fit?
Well, it's got to do it. There's too many of us who sit around and think and strategize and never do. Then on the other hand, there's people that just do, and they do all over themselves because they didn't plan or strategize on how to do it. So there's this fine line, this balance between the two things. But the magic is always in the action. The magic is when we do it. So I could sit down today and put together the perfect email sequence that'll capture the hearts and minds and dollars of 1 million people. But if I don't put that email sequence into action, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything for me at all. If I say, hey, I want to get on a stage and I'm going to speak alongside Gary Vee, or I want to get on stage with Grant Cardone, or I want to have an event where Tony Robbins is my guest speaker. Those are big, hairy, audacious goals. If we don't act upon it, it's certainly never going to happen. The magic is always in the action, not in the talking about it, not in the thinking about it, not in the planning stage, but in the doing. Now, the cool thing too, and this is what I also discovered, there's another law. There's this universal law that teaches us that we learn not only through discovery, but we learn that our ability to adapt will outperform our ability to plan. And that's why I believe that magic is in the action. Now think about this. You can plan all you want. You could sit down and write out the perfect plan. You could even write plan B. You can sit down and write out plan B. Okay, if this doesn't work, we're going to do this. But here's what we all know to be true, is that no matter how much we plan, no matter how much we write down, no matter how many contingencies we plan for, our ability to adapt to the current situation is always better than our ability to preemptively plan for that. And it's best illustrated in, that law is called the law of adaptation, by the way. But that's best illustrated in finances. So Mitchell, let's say you and your wife, you decide, hey, we want to save up money to buy a new car, because we don't want to go into debt, right? So we're going to save up money to buy a new car. Well, how much money do we need? Well, let's say, for example, you needed $10,000. And of course, we know cars don't cost that, but go with me on this. So I'm going to save up money to buy a $10,000 car. Well, okay, so the first month you sock away $500, and that's awesome. Ooh, we're doing it. We're moving. Your plan is working. Month 2, your HVAC unit goes out. The refrigerator breaks. The washer, something happens. Where do you get the money? Oh, we got this $500 sitting over there. You will never save the money to buy that car. And it is proven time and time again, it doesn't happen. But on the other hand, if you had gone out and bought the car on a $500 a month car payment, $500, by the way, that you couldn't fit into your current budget, you're like, we can't afford that. This is crazy. We can't afford this. What always happens? You find the $500. You always find the $500. You will adapt to the reality. So I think as entrepreneurs, we need to learn that the magic is in the action. Go do it, and you will adapt to the reality. That doesn't mean you don't plan. Put together a plan, but then go do it, and then you will adapt to the new reality.
All right, so those are 2 laws. I assume you got a couple others, or those are the primary 2 up your sleeve?
Oh, well, there's so many, and that's really kind of one of the unique parts of my coaching program, is that I've had mentors in my life that have kind of revealed these little known or almost secret laws that are actually there in the background, that have been there since God created the heavens and the earth. And if we learn how to leverage those, man, life begins to change. So the law of adaptation, the law of discovery, and by me explaining them, everybody listening is immediately going, yeah, that's true. That's true. So it's not like I'm coming up with a law that you would immediately go, nah, that's BS. That ain't going to work. No, these are all just natural. There's the law of exchange. Now think about this. And you're a perfect example of the law of exchange for me, Mitchell, and I'll explain this. So there's 4 ways that we can exchange in this world. We can exchange something called a fair exchange. I do something for you of some sort of value. You do something for me of that similar value. That's a fair exchange. And I think that's how the world operates. Built inside us, God designed this need for a fair exchange. That's why we feel slighted when there's not one. When there's a partial exchange, and that's a second type of exchange. There's a partial exchange. So I give you $100 worth of value, but you only hand me $90 back, for example. It's a partial exchange, and we both kind of feel, ooh, this is kind of weird. And then there's criminal exchange. A criminal exchange, we've all been either on one side or the other. A criminal exchange. Many coaches end up being on the side of giving too much. We give value and expect nothing in return. I'm not talking about giving gifts. Giving a gift is not an exchange, even though we call it gift exchange. It's not an exchange. So criminal exchange is I give you $100 worth of value and you don't get anything in return. Whether I intended to or not, that's a criminal exchange. You're the criminal, and I gave So coaches, people like you and me, we do that a lot. We give away all this great value with no expectation of anything in return. And we end up creating criminals who resent us. We see that with parenting, to go full circle in our conversation. Parenting. Parents do so much for their kids, and their kids end up growing up to resent them. Why? Because you did a criminal exchange their whole life growing up. So there's fair, there's partial, criminal. But the fourth, and this is why I wanted you as an example, is abundance exchange. Abundance exchange is where the magic really happens. Abundance exchange is when we start making the world change. And that is, I give value, you return value, we're equal, we're even. And then one of us comes back and says, you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to go a little bit above and beyond. I'm going to give you a little extra. And you're creating an abundance exchange. And what does that do? Now I'm a walking billboard for you, because I want to go tell everybody, did you know this Mitchell guy? Not only did he have me on his show, not only did he do the CPOT for me, but he also let me have access to his course for free. Like, he didn't have to do that. That's amazing. You guys need to go talk to Mitchell. That's an abundance exchange. And you just demonstrated that to me. So thank you.
So say you're welcome. And the issue is, you're somebody who said, I understand the value of this, and I receive, and I'm going to exchange in appropriate nature. It could have easily turned into a criminal exchange, in using your words. By their criminal seems really strong. When I look at those four, I'm going to think about a different word than criminal, but maybe that's the right word. So it could have easily been a criminal exchange with somebody who doesn't understand the law of reciprocity.
Yeah. The law of reciprocity is a different law, but very similar to the law of exchange. And I think built inside us is this need for fair exchange, and we want fair. And the reciprocity is more related to the abundance side of the exchange law, where you say, I want to go back and do more. I want to reciprocate in a way that exceeds what was given to me. And we see that happen a lot.
All right. So I see this. I see what you're doing when you exchange and interact with other people in a business setting. What about personal life? What does your wife say when you quote a law?
She's with me. I tell you, one of the coolest laws that I teach, and is actually this law that I'm about to tell you about, is called the law of open cycles. And this one is a cornerstone of my coaching program. I teach 4 core principles in my business accelerator. It's a live group coaching cohort model that I take people through to show them the 4 core principles to exit without exiting, to how to get out of the weeds of their business. And then in lesson 2, I teach them about this law of open cycles. And so my wife, when I learned this, I taught my wife, I taught my kids, I taught my employees, I taught anybody who would listen, because it absolutely blew my mind. And so when I taught her this law, she was like, okay, that makes sense. And now, like, we're dealing with some stress. Law of open cycles deals directly with stress elimination, stress management, stress, understanding how it happens. And so we're dealing with a pretty stressful, what you would call a stressful situation, although it's not, that's a misnomer, but a stressful situation nevertheless. And I said, hey, it's not because of this thing that we're dealing with. It's because we got too much other crap going on, too many open cycles. She goes, you're right. And so because when you understand it, it's like, oh, it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. So these laws are phenomenal ways to interpret and live in the world the right way.
That's interesting. What caused you? So it's interesting. We all live, work, act, deliver our values to the world in different ways. And for you, and by the way, this is now one of our first times as I'm thinking about our previous conversations, you were actually living the laws, but this is the first time I'm actually hearing about the laws.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What was that first aha moment, that first law that you go, oh, this is really fascinating. I need to put this into practice?
I think the law of open cycles was probably the first one that I learned that made so much sense that I said, this is in fact how the world operates, and I can leverage this to my benefit. And I'll give you an example. The law of gravity, which, unless you're an idiot, nobody would ever argue against it. I mean, we all know what it is. We did not know it or understand it until Isaac Newton told us what it was. But we had all lived under the law for, thousands and thousands of years. When God said, let there be light, heavens and earth, all that stuff, gravity existed. Boom, it existed. We'd all been living the reality, but we didn't know what it was. Now, once we understood what it was, after Isaac Newton explained the law of gravity and we began to understand how that works, what happened? Well, not immediately, but eventually we began to leverage that law to our benefit. And we understood how lift works and how wind works and how gravity can be manipulated to make flight happen. Because the law of gravity, once Isaac Newton explained it, we'd look at a bird and go, well, so they're not susceptible to the law. And they're like, well, no. In fact, they are. They're just leveraging it to their benefit. And so humans began to do it. So the law of open cycles teaches us that stress is not caused by the endurance of stressful situations. Rather, it is caused by too many open cycles at any one time. So that begs the question, what's an open cycle? An open cycle is anything that has a start, a change, and a stop. So it's really anything. It's you invited me to be on this show, that created an open cycle in my life. There's a start. We're in the middle of the change. And when you say, thanks, Jason, we're done, it stops. The open cycle is complete. So anything, an unread text message, a bill that's due, a report that needs to be written, a party that needs to be planned, whatever it is, all those are open cycles. No matter how big, no matter how small, they're all single open cycles. And if you can imagine for a minute, every single open cycle of your life is written on a single piece of paper. So no matter how big or small the deal is, it's just on a single piece of paper. If you put all your pieces of paper together and bound them as if it were a book, how thick would your book be? The thicker your book, the more stress you feel. That's it. That's what the law teaches. So now, if we know that, we can leverage that to our benefit and not let cycles open in our life that are not necessary. I know you're a fan of Napoleon Hill. You must also be a fan of Stephen Covey, who in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, said, shrink your circle of concern. In other words, don't worry about stuff you can't control. And that's what the law helps us figure out. This is not anything that I need to be worried about. I'm not going to let that new open cycle happen. So I'll be less stressed. And that's how you manage stress. That's actually how you can eliminate stress in your life.
That's really, really powerful. So that was your first law?
You asked the question, which was the first one that when I learned is like, I got to do something about this. That was it. That was the one.
That was the one. Got it. Okay. So you probably heard many others. That's interesting. Now it's interesting to think about because your approach to the world, powerful, and I love it. And it's different than the way I approach the world. In working with this, I could see how amazing your masterminds can be. I could see how amazing your group coaching will be. I mean, I just feel that in talking to you. When you're acting as parent, do your kids quote some of the laws?
Yeah, I don't know that they quote them back to me, but they understand the reality of them. So the fair exchange, when we learned the law of exchange years ago, I mean, that's what we talked to our kids about. So if my son said, hey, I need $20, okay, that's great. So if I give you, are you asking for a gift or are we going to have an exchange here? Well, Dad, I'd like to have a gift. Well, it's not your birthday. It's not Christmas. So this isn't a matter of giving. You're asking for something to exchange. So what's our fair exchange here? If you need $20, what are you going to exchange? Well, I'll weed eat for you, or I'll take the trash out, or whatever it happens to be. And they get it. They understand, because that's the way the world works. Like if I give them $20 and continue to give them $20 and continue to give them $20 and I expect nothing in return, at first he'll be thankful. Second, he'll be suspicious. Like, why does Dad keep doing this? That doesn't make sense. And eventually he'll justify in his brain that he is the okay one, even though he's the criminal in this. I created the criminal, but he is the criminal. And he will go, he must have some ulterior motive. At some point in the future, he's going to come back and say, remember all those $20 I gave you? And then he'll start resenting me for that. So creating this fair exchange with your kids is a great way for them to understand how the world truly works.
I kind of love that. There's probably a couple scenarios as I'm thinking about this that I could have used that with my son way back when. Yeah,
probably more than one.
I just was trying to think about the things that come to mind, but yes, absolutely. Very cool. are there values that come from when you were a pastor that are just so relevant to entrepreneurs who are stuck in the weeds?
Very interesting question. Well, I think one value, like the core of everything that I believe, is the golden rule, which I think most people know without me even quoting, but it's do to other people what you would want done to you. So if I want you to be kind, I should be kind. If I want you to be generous, I should be generous. If I want you to be respectful, I should be respectful. Especially on a day like today, which is election day, we see so many things that are disrespectful. We're not, the Republicans, the Democrats, no matter who you are, they're all not living by the golden rule. Both sides, black, white, red, blue, it doesn't matter. They're not living by the golden rule. And I just generally believe, with all that I am, is that if everybody lived by the golden rule, we wouldn't have problems. There wouldn't be a need for two-factor authentication that we all hate. If we just live by the golden rule, how many times have we tried to log into something? Oh, crap. And then we got to go through this whole extra stuff. You know why? Because people steal and they're breaking the golden rule because they don't want to be stolen from. So for me, as an entrepreneur, I got to look at that and say, okay, well, what do I want to happen for my family? Well, I want my family to have plenty of time with me. I want to have plenty of time with them. Well, if we're stuck in the weeds, we're working 60, 70, 80, sometimes 100-hour work weeks. We're not treating our family as the most important part. We're treating our business as the most important part. And I believe that the point of owning a business is not running the business. I believe the point of owning a business is that the business provides me the lifestyle that I want, the financial resources and the lifestyle that I want. I believe that's the point of business ownership. And so if I'm going to live that way, that where my wife is number one and my kids are number two, and then the extended family number three, my community, et cetera, on down the list, that my business is not at the top of that thing. My business provides me the ability to live all the rest of that stuff out. So if I live by the golden rule, I'm going to treat my business and my family in proper perspective.
That was an elegant response. I'm going to say, by the way, my TEDx, it's getting close to 500,000 views, 28th most popular in 2021, was we are losing our humanity and I'm tired of watching it happen. So you and I had the same thought. If we're nothing more than credible to each other, we will be more humane to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and haven't we lost that? I mean, over 2020, 2021, what's happened during this pandemic, it's been, whether it's from the health perspective, financial perspective, the human rights perspective, the race, like everything, like we've lost the ability to have cognitive dialogue that makes sense, that's respectful, that's worth something. And at the end, we're still held in high esteem for one another. I mean, I have very strong opinions about politics, very strong opinions about the way things should be done. And they should always be done the way I think, right? I mean, that's the way everybody thinks, if we're honest. But the reality is, at the end of the day, there's people that think different than me. And that's, I think they're wrong, but that's okay. They think I'm wrong. Like let's just move on with life. We're not going to win every battle.
It should be still okay to like and love somebody, even if they have a different opinion than yours. And that's the piece that we've lost.
Yeah. And you know what? You don't have the right not to be offended. Get over yourself. Whoever you are, wherever you are, who needs to hear this, like there's going to be crap that happens in your life that you ain't going to like. And it is not that other person's responsibility to make you feel nice and calm and comfortable all the time. You're not going to live a life that way. You're going to be offended. And crap's going to happen. Get over it. Move on. Just be kind. Let's treat other people the way we want to be treated. And don't expect them to adhere to everything we think, because we wouldn't want them to do that to us. Back to the golden rule.
I love that. Hey, Jason, is there a question I should have asked that I didn't?
What's the number to the $1.9 billion Powerball? You could have asked that.
Oh, if you had a tie into that almighty in that way, I would have asked you offline and said, hey, let's have some fun together. I would have shared it with my son. And yeah, I got you.
No, I think you've done a great job of asking questions. I tell you, I find myself unintentionally, and certainly not without being planned, people asking me on podcasts a lot about my family and my wife and my kids. And one of the one of the joys of my life is my wife. And we've been, like I said, been married to over 27 years, met on a blind date as teenagers. And one of the most viewed clips, the only viral clip of any worth that I've ever had, was I was on another podcast and the guy asked me about my wife. And then they took that clip and posted it. Last time I checked, it was like 26 million views. And people lose their minds over what divorce and marriage and all that really means. So I think you asked, again, unintentionally and certainly not planned, family questions that seem to happen every time I'm on a show. So I think you did good.
All right. Oh, good. Yeah, I just wanted to see you and see your values. It's clear how you would act as the coach, mentor, person helping your clients. But I wanted to see what's behind the scene. I need to get to know you. I wanted to see your credibility. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate that. And the honor truly is mine. And for those people who are excited about you, who are interested, who want to follow through, who want to learn more, how best can they reach out to you?
Well, I'm on all social media. Well, anywhere that I'm on social media is at the Real Jason Duncan. So you can find me at the Real Jason Duncan. I'm mainly on Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are the two places I hang out the most. Instagram probably more than LinkedIn. I've got a YouTube channel at the Real Jason Duncan. So anywhere online, if you just Google at the Real Jason Duncan, you're going to find me. That's the best place. And what I would say specifically to the entrepreneurs who are listening, who want to know if they're stuck in the weeds, I've prepared a free exit readiness assessment that you can take at amireadytoexit.com. amireadytoexit.com. And it's just a free, I think it's like 20 questions that'll give you a report on how close you are to being able to exit the daily operations of your business. And that will show you, and many people will qualify as a result of that to talk with me for 30 minutes to review it. And I'll be happy to talk one-on-one with you to show you how close you are to being able to get out of the weeds of the daily operations of your business.
That is well done. Very powerful. Jason, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Very cool. Hey, and listen, if you're still here, this means that this was, and there are many of you still here right now live, and we'll make sure we get this out again. And if you're still here, it's time to spread some cred dust. So make sure you put in the chat section the aha moment that really attracted to you. Click on the like button, share with your friends, and we'll see you at the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Jason, thanks again. And thank you everyone for paying attention. We'll see you now.